right, Tom, here's the tile that needs repairing.
Oh yeah, look at that, a broken tile. Well, you know, people love tile in the kitchen because it's easy to clean, but it can be fragile. So if you drop something, you can do one or two things. You're either going to break the dish that you dropped, or you're going to break the tile. In some cases, you're going to break both things.
And that's exactly what happened here. We dropped a jar, the jar broke, and the tile broke.
Ah, not good. All right, so one of the biggest hurdles with this job is trying to match this tile. We don't know where it came from, we don't know how long it's been there, and there's hundreds of tile stores and home centers around here. So we're gonna have to do our homework to try to find it and match it.
Well, actually, in this instance, that's one hurdle that we have already overcome because the previous owners left some tiles in the basement for us.
Well, that's fantastic. Okay, so that hurdle is crossed. All right, so why don't I get some tools and we'll get that out and see if we can get your new tile in.
Fantastic.
All right. Okay, now the first thing we need to do is try to remove the grout from around the perimeter of the tile. And the grout's old and it could be pretty soft. So I want to try cutting it out with the utility knife because the utility knife blade is nice and thin. And I'll keep the knife tight to this one so it doesn't wander on that one. Nice. All right, I'll come back and do it. Just keep going over that. Yeah, see that grout's kind of
Yeah, it's pretty
powdery.
soft.
Yeah, it's good. All right, so that's pretty good there. All right, now let's try dragging it on this side.
Okay.
Again, stay close to the broken piece.
Got it. This one's easier.
Nice. All right, so what we've created is a thin gap right here on this grout line and this grout line. And this tile is loose. So what I want to try before we get too carried away with cutting is I'm going to take a small chisel or a nail set or even a small bar, and we're going to try to fracture this tile and pull it up. But when we pull it up, I want to watch the grout lines to see if we're stressing the tile on the other side of the grout.
Okay.
All right? So first thing I'm going to do is take a cold chisel and I'll just try to pop it in under this broken piece.
Awesome.
Oh, look at that. I'm going to go in as I'm going in. I can feel the bottom of the chisel hitting the floor underneath, so it's going to slowly come in. But I have to watch this side of the chisel right here, making sure I don't damage this tile. So now I'll tap it, pry it up gently. I don't want too much stress on it. Work it back and forth. See how it's coming up? And we're looking around. I don't see any cracking. Look at how that grout's lifting right up.
Yeah, that's
See that?
fantastic.
So that's giving us room for the tile to move, which is a good thing. Okay, so I'm going to lift it up just a little. Look at that.
That's fantastic.
All right. Now I just slowly take it up. Pull it out. Now this piece is nice and loose. Pop that right away. Now I'm going to go for this big one. I'm just going to slowly pull it up. Don't want to rush it, as I said. Okay, good. It's loose. Then put that away. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to remove all this old, loose adhesive. Get it all cleaned up. Now I'm going to wipe the area with a damp sponge to clean up all the dust and dampen the wood just a little bit so the adhesive doesn't set up too fast. All right, good. Now I'm not going to use a traditional thin set to set the tile because this is such a small area and we're going over plywood. I want to use an acrylic base that's really meant for small areas like this. And now I'm going to use the straight or flat edge of the trowel and just spread it around onto the plywood. Now I want to use the notch side of the trowel, and I want to try to stand the trowel up as straight as I can to get the maximum out of the notch.
Got it.
I'm going to do the same thing this way, only I can do the edge of the trowel again, stand it up, drag it across. Over here. All right, so why don't you hand me the tile?
All right. Here you go.
Okay, good. Now I'm just going to set the tile on top. All right, so I just want to force this in, make sure I have a good solid connection with the underside of the tile and the top of the floor. I also want to make sure that I check the level of the tile with the ones beside it. It's good. It's good there. It's good there. I'm going to clean it off, get rid of all the excess acrylic, and let it dry. All right, Kate, it's been a few hours and our tile is set and ready to grout.
Great.
And we're going to put it on with this float. Do you want to try it?
I'd love to.
All right, here's the float and here's the grout.
Okay.
So you're going to take it out of there, put a little bit on the trowel, tip the tip of the trowel into
Take
the
it out with
yep,
the
just
trowel?
like that, yep.
Okay.
So what I want you to do is force it right into this joint. I don't want you to push down real hard. Go diagonal with your joint. We're never going to be able to match this grout exactly because it's been down for what, maybe 15 years?
Yeah.
So over time, the grime in the air, and if you spill things on the floor, you know, everything gets a little bit of a stain in it. So I picked the color of premix grout, so we don't have to mix it.
Okay.
It's close to the color that exists right now.
Okay.
Now you got the hang of it. That was quick. I'm going to take something round like the handle of this trowel that we're using and drag it right across. See how that just forces it right in there?
Cleans it up.
Cleans it right up. I'm going to go right across, just like that. So now I'm just going to take our float and I'm going to lightly drag across the joint, again at a slight diagonal because I don't want to pull any out of those joints.
Okay.
Pull it out, pull it off. Now, we've got it cleaned off pretty good. So I'm going to take a wet sponge and I'm going to wring it out. I'm going to put some pressure. I don't want to push down too hard because I don't want to make a divot. Okay? All right, Kate, we broke out the broken tile and we replaced it with a new one, or should I say a new old one.
Yep.
And grouted it all in there.
Looks fantastic.
Okay, so now this grout's going to take about 24 hours for it to really set up.
Okay.
So I would really like it if you could put a chair over here for tonight or something just to keep somebody from walking on it.
Okay.
All right?
Keep two little kids from walking on
Exactly.
it.
Now, if you notice, there's a little bit of a haze on the floor. So sometime tomorrow, just take a coarse cloth, like a towel or something like that, wet it just a little bit, wipe the floor, and then use a dry one and buff it away.
Sounds good.
All right? So you're all set.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming over and showing me how to do this and really making it look fantastic.
Well, it was my pleasure, and thanks for your help.
Thank you.
Nice fix, Tommy. And
Thank
not
you.
to suggest that it was an easy job, but the hardest part of that sometimes is just finding the right tile. I mean, you guys got lucky.
Absolutely. That's why I was so happy when she said she had tile, because we would have had to take, the best thing is to take a piece of tile out, take it to a tile store with a reputable store where they know tile.
Yep.
And lots of times the owner there or the salesman would be able to tell by looking at the back of the tile.
This one very faintly says made in Italy. It's got a distinctive pattern, so you might get lucky again.
Yeah, and he doesn't have it. He may have suggest a store that does have it.
Okay. So you would not, if you were laying a new tile floor, ever put it right on plywood, a plywood subfloor?
I don't like to lay tile on plywood. I like to lay it on a sub base made for tile. Now there's a few different kinds out there. This just happens to be a cement board that we have right here. Comes in different thicknesses. I would glue this entire system down to the plywood.
Thin set trowel down.
Notch trowel and screw it probably 8 inches on center. Let it set and then put your tile on top of that.
For a patch, in this case, doesn't make sense, and certainly that'd give you too much thickness.
Absolutely.
Were you surprised that her grout was as soft as it was, that she could go after it with just a utility knife?
Well, you know, when I first walked into the kitchen, I could actually see a couple of spots where the grout was missing. So I knew that it was old and I knew that it was dried. So that's why I suggested, just before I left her, I said, you should get yourself a grout knife like this. It's a carbide knife. And go in, and for Saturday, it'd be a great trick. Go in there and just drag out all the grout, vacuum it, damp sponge, let it dry, and then grout it.
All right. I love the fact that you told her that as you were leaving.
Yeah.